Hey guys, how you doing? Welcome back. I'm Fuzz, and we're going to have a lot of fun today as part of my 31 Days of Horror celebration. Today I've got a ranking of my top 10 favorite horror subgenres. And of course, considering this is a physical media discussion channel, I'll naturally have some examples on physical media that I'll be using as visual aids to help me illustrate each entry on this list. So let's get right into my list here and rock this. All right, now keep in mind, this is based on my admittedly rather limited experience with the horror genre. I've mentioned before on the channel, I wasn't always the biggest horror fan, with certain exceptions. I mean, there are certain horror movies I've always liked, like, you know, the Alien movies or John Carpenter movies. But for the most part, I didn't really start getting into the horror genre with any kind of consistency until about 4 or 5 years ago. So there are a lot of horror movies out there I've still never seen. I still have quite a bit of exploring to do in terms of increasing my horror vocabulary. I mean, horror is a vast genre, right? With many, many different subgenres. And in some cases, the subgenres can be broken down further into additional subgenres. And then, of course, oftentimes there's quite a bit of overlap between different subgenres, with many movies fitting into multiple subgenres at the same time. So there's a lot out there. And I've often joked in the past that when I first started getting into horror about 4 or 5 years ago, I felt like I was drinking through a fire hose trying to catch up on everything I'd missed. So I'm sure there are a lot of great horror movies out there that I just not had a chance to experience yet. So I just want you guys to keep in mind this is a very loose ranking and categorization based on, you know, where I'm at right now and based on the horror movies that I've seen to date. All right, enough of my babbling here. Let's get into the list. For my number 10, I've chosen the slasher subgenre, which I might be a little bit controversial. I know that a lot of horror fans out there are big slasher fans. I've always had kind of mixed feelings about the subgenre, right? There are some slasher movies I really like, and there are some I don't really like that much. And, you know, it just depends on my mood, right? Now, of the ones I like, I'm a big Halloween fan. Huge John Carpenter fan. I love the Halloween movies. And I've got, you know, Halloween 1 and Halloween 2 here on 4K just to kind of illustrate the franchise. But I've really got the whole franchise here behind me. I'm a big fan of Halloween, right? So I've always liked these, and I've liked Halloween, these movies, since I was young, right? So these are among the exceptions to my being a late bloomer with the horror genre. And in fact, I'd say of the big three horror franchises, Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street, and Friday the 13th, Halloween is by far my favorite. But of course, we got Friday the 13th here as well, which is my least favorite of the big three. Now, this is where the slasher thing is kind of lukewarm for me, right? Because I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of the Friday the 13th franchise. I mean, they're okay, you know, but they're not my favorite. I like both Nightmare on Elm Street and Halloween more than I like the Friday the 13th series. And you know, so I may as well mention Nightmare on Elm Street. Of course, I've got the new 4K 7-film collection here. I'll be talking more about this in my coming update videos. I've started making my way through some of these films, but I've only had a chance to watch 2 of the 7 so far. I'm kind of spreading them out over time so I don't get too burned out on Nightmare on Elm Street. And of course, Nightmare on Elm Street kind of falls into probably multiple subgenres, right? But I think the slasher label is entirely fitting in this case. And there are other slashers I like too. Like I like The Burning. This is a good one. Good looking 4K as well. Some other examples here, like Night Screams. Got Night Screams here. This is a Vinegar Syndrome 4K release. And a great looking 4K, and like Madman. And this is actually one that I've kind of warmed up to. Like when I first got this, I didn't think much of it. But after having rewatched it, I kind of warmed up to it, and I kind of like this one now. But there are other slashers that I'm just not really the biggest fan of, like Sleepaway Camp, for example, or even the Scream movies. I've always thought the Scream movies were a little bit overrated. Right. And I think I've only seen like the first 3 of them. But so I haven't seen them all. But and you know what? I actually thought the first one was fairly decent when it first came out. I thought it was fairly clever what Wes Craven was doing with the first Scream. But I'm just not that big of a fan of the Scream franchise overall compared to other types of slashers. So the slasher genre for me personally is a bit of a mixed bag. I know some of you out there really dig slashers. I like them sometimes, and other times I just don't really get into them. And I have to be in the mood for a slasher as well. And so that's why I put it at number 10. It's of the 10 on this list, the slasher subgenre is probably my least favorite. But that doesn't mean that I don't like certain slasher movies. So yeah, for my number 10, slashers. All right, next up for my number 9, we've got a subgenre here that I guess technically could be considered part of another subgenre. Right, this could be considered a type of creature flick, but for our purposes here, I have so much fun with this particular subgenre. I wanted to make it its own entry, and that is the werewolf subgenre. I love werewolf movies. I have a lot of fun with them. Of course, The Howling is one I've talked about a lot on the channel before. This is my favorite werewolf movie to date, and I just love this one. Love Dee Wallace in this. I'm a big Dee Wallace fan. And she's awesome in this one. But of course, Silver Bullet, which I just watched the other night, and I'll be talking about this in my next video as well, and had a blast with this one. Also, like Dog Soldiers. That's a good one. Yeah, I really enjoy this one. And these are all on 4K here, all Scream Factory releases. Yeah, I believe so. And so, yeah, I enjoyed Dog Soldiers. And then, of course, the big one, American Werewolf in London. This is the one most people seem to think is the best. My favorite's The Howling, but a lot of people put this one as like the best werewolf movie out there. But there are a lot of werewolf movies out there. I know there are quite a few I haven't had a chance to see yet. Ginger Snaps is one that's on my watch list for this month. I'm hoping to get through that one. And then also Wolfen is another one that I've heard from some is pretty good. And I know there are a bunch of others out there. I still need to watch American Werewolf in Paris. I've heard that one is pretty decent as well. So, and I know there are, like I said, a ton of others out there that I still have yet to have discovered. But I always have fun with this particular subgenre. I just love the transformations, and I just love the mythology and the lore of what werewolves are. So yeah, I always have a blast with this subgenre. For my number 9, werewolf movies. Okay, and next up for my number 8 is a subgenre that I always have a ton of fun with. I'm talking about anything that deals with demonic possession or the devil. Right? Demons, demonic possession, or the devil. I love those kind of movies, or any kind of like, and I'll also lump in like religious horror in general, right? Any kind of like religious horror, anything dealing with the devil or demonic possession, exorcisms, that kind of thing. I love that kind of stuff. And of course, the big notable one would be The Exorcist, right? Which I think I'm due for a rewatch this year. I haven't seen it in a couple years, I don't think. So I'll definitely look forward to rewatching that on 4K in the not too distant future. That will be this month sometime, I'm sure. I'm also thinking about watching The Exorcist 3 this month at some point. This is a great one with George C. Scott. Yeah, really good sequel to the original Exorcist. You can't go wrong with this one. It's got some great spooky stuff in it for sure. And a great looking 4K too from Scream Factory. And pardon my mic bumping. That does happen from time to time. And what else we got? Evil Dead. Right? Evil Dead 1 and 2. Admittedly, I'm not as big of an Evil Dead fan as I am with other things along these lines, but I still do appreciate it for what it is. And of course, Sam Raimi, he's a great director. He's really inventive and creative, so I do have a lot of respect for him. What else? Oh, The Omen. I love The Omen. And I actually like all the Omen movies. I've got the first 3 here, the Omen trilogy here. Yeah, I like all of these. And in some ways, I almost like the original Omen better than the original Exorcist. I know they're not exactly the same, but sometimes they seem to get thought of in the same zone, right? So yeah, big fan of The Omen, and that's directed by Richard Donner, which, is kind of surprising when you think about his career as a whole, right? The fact that he directed The Omen along with something like, Superman and Lethal Weapon, right? It just doesn't seem like they'd match. But no, Richard Donner did an awesome job with this. And of course, I've also mentioned on the channel before, I'm a big fan of Prince of Darkness, John Carpenter. Still need to get the 4K Steelbook for this one. I'm still kind of waiting for the price to come down on that one a little bit before I pull the trigger on it. But it looks great on 4K, and it's just a great movie that I've mentioned a few times on the channel previously. And then another great example, Demons. You got to love Demons, right? Lamberto Bava working with Dario Argento on this. And of course, I've got Demons 1 and 2 here. I like the first one more than the second one in this series, quite a bit more than the second one. The second one's not bad either, but it's the first one that's really good. And it's got some great music as well. And then there are a couple others I wanted to mention that I don't own yet, but I do plan to add to my collection at some point. The Exorcism of Emily Rose was a really good one, starring Laura Linney and Tom Wilkinson. And then the movie Sinister from 2012 with Ethan Hawke. That was a great movie. And that one, believe it or not, I actually saw that one in the theater long before I really got into the horror genre overall, right? But I remember that day I was in the mood. It was one of those rare occasions where I was in the mood for something spooky and scary. And of course, I was a big Ethan Hawke fan. I think that's why I went and saw it in the theater, mainly because of Ethan Hawke. And I was on an Ethan Hawke kick. So I was like, let me go check this out. And damn, it was good. I mean, that movie scared the shit out of me. And I don't really get scared in movies very often, like with horror movies. Like, they don't really scare me. Most of the time, they're just kind of amusing. I mean, I can appreciate suspense, and tension building, but I don't personally usually get scared that much, like when I'm watching a horror movie. But Sinister scared the shit out of me. That movie was intense and a really well done film. In fact, thinking about it, I think I need to go order that one and see what formats it's available on. Did that ever get a 4K release? I don't even know. I've never really looked into it. So I might have to go pick that up. But anyway, all right, enough of that. Yeah, so for my number 8, anything with exorcisms, demonic possession, anything involving the devil, religious horror, that kind of thing, that's my number 8. And yeah, I just love that kind of stuff. All right, moving right along here to my number 7. I've got a horror subgenre here that I've actually always kind of liked. Like, even before I really started getting into horror, I've always kind of liked this particular subgenre, and that is vampire movies. Anything to do with vampires, I've always actually kind of enjoyed watching those types of movies. And of course, one of the big ones would be Salem's Lot, which this one is one of the vampire movies I didn't actually see until later in life. But other vampire movies I've always enjoyed over the years, but this one's great. Some would argue one of the best vampire movies ever made, if not the best vampire movie ever made. I don't know, your own mileage may vary. And I guess Arrow Video, I think it's Arrow Video. I hope I'm not getting that wrong. I think it's Arrow that's going to be releasing this on 4K. So that'll definitely be something I'll be looking to pick up at some point. But here's one that I've always liked, even before I really started getting into horror, 30 Days of Night. This is a fun one. Really enjoyed this one. Josh Hartnett, I've always had actually quite a bit of respect for him as an actor. And it was due to seeing him in a movie called Wicker Park, which has nothing to do with horror. But that was the movie that made me a fan of Josh Hartnett. And then I got kind of on a Josh Hartnett kick after that and discovered 30 Days a Night and really enjoyed this one. Great little vampire flick here. What's become one of my favorite vampire flicks, even though I was kind of late to discovering this one as well, is a movie called Near Dark, with a partially reunited cast from one of my favorite movies of all time, Aliens. We got Lance Hendrickson in this. We got Bill Paxton in this. We got Jeanette Goldstein in this. And that was one of the reasons this movie caught my interest. But it's a great movie. I absolutely love this one. We're supposed to be getting it on 4K at some point, but we've been hearing that, I feel like, for at least a couple years now. Like, I don't know, at least 3 years, I feel like we've been hearing that they were working on this for 4K. And but we've never heard anything else about it. So I don't know if that's still in the works or whatnot. But all I've got is this German import. I would love to get this movie on 4K if given the opportunity. But such a great vampire flick, Near Dark. What else we got here? Oh yeah, Bram Stoker's Dracula. There's another good one, Francis Ford Coppola. You got to get your nice gothic atmosphere on in this one. This one's a really good movie, and it looks fantastic in 4K. What else? Oh, of course, I guess this counts as a vampire movie, but it's more like a. I don't even know if this is horror, right? I mean, I guess it's more like vampire action, or maybe it's horror action, right? I don't know. Blade, right? I love the Blade movies. I love all of them. Right, I love the whole trilogy, but I've got the first one here on 4K, and I guess we're getting the whole trilogy on 4K too at some point. That's in the works. And then the Underworld movies. I like the Underworld movies. Now this one's kind of a mashup, right? Because this one, or I should say, it includes more than one subgenre, right? Because you got both vampires and werewolves in this. But yeah, I love the Underworld movies. Again, almost more of an action movie than a horror movie, right? I don't really tend to think of the Underworld movies as horror as much. I guess you call it, horror action or action horror or something like that. But they are a lot of fun. And I haven't gotten around to picking these up on 4K. I wasn't sure if it'd be worth it on 4K. If any of you have the 4K set of these and you think they are worth it on 4K, I'd love to hear about it. Let me know in the comments below. So, but yeah, the vampire subgenre, I've always thought, I've always had a lot of fun with it. And part of it is because of the more action-oriented stuff like Underworld and Blade, right? I also really like the old series True Blood. Did you guys ever see that? I know I don't really talk about series on this channel. I'm focused usually on movies, but I can't remember what was that HBO or was it Showtime? I think it was one of the two. I can't remember. Put out that series True Blood, and I thought that was really well done at the time. I got really into it and watched the whole series. So yeah, anything really vampire related, I usually tend to take an interest in and get into. So for my number 7, vampire movies. All right, and for my number 6, we've got another subgenre here that I've always kind of enjoyed. Even, before I started getting way into horror, I've always kind of liked zombie movies. The zombie subgenre, of course, George Romero being the king, I think, of the zombie subgenre with movies like Night of the Living Dead, absolute classic. And of course, another absolute classic, Dawn of the Dead. And I love the Romero of the Dead movies. They're all a lot of fun. Of course, Day of the Dead as well. You just can't go wrong with this kind of thing. And I'm even a big fan of Land of the Dead, but I didn't think to grab that one for this list. And I'm also a big fan of the remake of Dawn of the Dead. Zack Snyder's remake of Dawn of the Dead. This is killer. This is a really well done movie, and it's a fantastic looking 4K as well. So is the other Dawn of the Dead 4K. It's there, anything I have here on 4K looks pretty damn good when it comes to Romero. But I actually love this Zack Snyder remake. I think he did a fantastic job with this one, and would highly recommend it. This is one of the few horror films that I actually owned before I started getting into horror, because I never used to buy any horror physical media at all. But this was one of the few titles I actually did buy prior to getting back into collecting, 5 years ago. And I've just, always really enjoyed this one. What else we got on the zombie front? Planet Terror, Robert Rodriguez, which was part of the Grindhouse double feature here with Quentin Tarantino. I've always loved Planet Terror. That's a great film. It's kind of almost like a horror comedy almost. I mean, it's not like overtly comedic, but there's definitely some dark comedic elements to Planet Terror. And then, Resident Evil. I think you can make a case. It's a zombie element of zombie action, kind of zombie horror action here. Yeah, love the Resident Evil movies. The first one's my favorite, but I do enjoy the others as well. And what else can I talk about here? Things that I don't currently have in my possession. There's a movie called Warm Bodies from, I think it was 2013, starring Nicholas Hoult, an earlier role for Nicholas Hoult there. And it was kind of a unique take on the whole zombie thing. It was like kind of a horror comedy romance, right? And where this zombie kind of develops this relationship with a human, and it's kind of a trip. But it was a really well done movie. Now I only saw it once, and it's been probably since it was new since I've seen it, so I don't like remember it that well. But I do remember liking it and thinking, "Wow, this is kind of a cool take on the whole zombie thing." So yeah, Warm Bodies is a good one. I guess you could consider Reanimator a zombie movie as well, which I've got back here. I didn't actually pull it off the shelf, but yeah, Reanimator. Also, Return of the Living Dead, which I know is a big one. Got a lot of fans out there of Return of the Living Dead. I've actually never seen this one. This is one of those ones that I'm going to be seeing soon here. I pre-ordered the new Arrow Video 4K chunky box for Return of the Living Dead, which I think is a UK only release, so it's an import here. But I'm definitely looking forward to checking that one out. I know it's probably long overdue for me to finally get around to watching that one. So, and then of course, as far as zombies go, I don't usually like to talk about series on the channel, but The Walking Dead. Good series, or at least it was good till it got to a certain point. What was that? Season 6, season 5, season 6? At some point, it kind of went off the rails, and I just decided I'd had enough with the series. But the first few seasons, that was actually a really good show. And, again, I'm not one to normally get into series all that much, but there was a time before I got back into collecting movies where I actually was watching quite a bit of shows and series on TV. And Walking Dead was definitely one of them. So, yeah, I've always kind of enjoyed the world of zombies. So for my number 6, zombie movies. By the way, if you're enjoying the content on this channel, do me a favor and please consider subscribing to the channel. And if you do, don't forget to activate that notification bell as well. Make sure it's filled in all the way so you are always alerted whenever I'm posting videos that you might be interested in. Also, don't forget to like the video as well, and maybe even leave a comment if you're feeling so inclined. The YouTube algorithm really likes it when you do that and tends to reward the channel with greater visibility. Thanks so much for your support, guys. I really appreciate it. All right, and next up for my number 5, I've got a little Italian horror here for you. I am talking about the giallo subgenre, which for those of you who are unfamiliar with this particular subgenre, essentially a giallo film is like a whodunit murder mystery meets a slasher film. It's like if you were to combine those two elements together, that's essentially what you get with a giallo movie. And the main director that comes to mind for me when I think of giallo is the great Dario Argento. I've got Deep Red here on 4K from Arrow Video. This is one of my favorite giallo films. Deep Red is a classic. This is awesome. But Argento made a lot of great giallo films. I also really like The Cat of Nine Tails. Great film, another great looking 4K as well. And this is one of the earlier Argento giallo films, maybe a little bit slower than some of his later giallo films and not quite as over the top, but still a good film regardless. I always enjoy returning to this one. And then also another Dario Argento film, Tenebrae. Great giallo film, and yeah, this one's fantastic, and it has some awesome kills in it as well. You can't go wrong with something like this. But of course, there are other giallo movies out there besides just Dario Argento films. Of course, the great Mario Bava. Here's Bay of Blood. I love this one. I still have a lot of exploring to do with Mario Bava's work. I've seen maybe a handful of his films. And I like what I've seen, including this one. This is a great one. But I still have a lot of other ones of his I still have to check out. So that's, it's a work in progress for me. A lot of people would suggest Mario Bava was one of the big heavyweights in the giallo subgenre. And then, of course, there's other great directors, too, like Sergio Martino. I've really taken a liking to his films. One of my favorites of his is called The Case of the Scorpion's Tail. You can't go wrong with this one. I got a Blu-ray here from Arrow Video. Great giallo film. And then also another Sergio Martino film here that I think is considered quite a classic, All the Colors of the Dark. And this is a great one. One I can definitely recommend if you're a fan of giallo, but you haven't seen this one. You should check it out. It's a solid film. And then what else can I use here? Got a relatively new boutique that came out, I think, or established themselves within the last couple years. I think it was a couple years ago now, called Celluloid Dreams, and they've been restoring a bunch of old Giallo films in 4K. And I picked up their very first release, The Case of the Bloody Iris. And this is a stunning looking 4K. The folks over at Celluloid Dreams, they really know what they're doing when it comes to film restoration. This was just a fantastic release in terms of the quality of the presentation. And this was one I had never seen before prior to picking this up. It's a great little Giallo film. Now, Celluloid Dreams has released, I think, at least 2 or 3 other Giallos since this came out. They don't actually have that many releases under their belt. Like I said, they're relatively new, just within the last couple years. And I haven't picked up any of their other titles yet, but I do plan to because they did such a great job on this one. And then one last Giallo before I wrap up this entry. How about Death Walks on High Heels, directed by Luciano Ercoli? I've got a couple of his films as well, and this is a good one as well. And, you know, there really are a lot of Giallo films out there. I've only hit like the tip of the iceberg. Like the films I have in my collection, I feel like those are just like the biggest, most well-known like Giallo films, you know, or some of the biggest, most well-known Giallo films. But there are so many that I haven't seen. The Giallo subgenre in itself is pretty vast. So I've still got a lot of exploring to do, a lot of Giallo movies that I want to check out, you know, moving forward. And I'm always on the lookout for a good Giallo movie that I haven't seen. So I guess that's about it for my number 5, Giallo movies. All right, and moving right along here to my number 4, I've got a subgenre here that I'm not exactly sure how to categorize. It's kind of a more encompassing category here. I guess I would call this like powers of the mind, right? So what I'm essentially talking about here is like telekinesis horror, mind control, psychic powers, psychokinesis, telepathy, telepathic powers, anything like that. Pyrokinesis, basically anything where you can control something with your mind, or you have some kind of like predictive ability to see the future. Anything like that, I love those kind of movies. And the first one that comes to mind, the biggest one that I think of when I think of like telekinesis horror, is the movie Carrie, of course. Brian De Palma. This is an absolute classic and one I've talked about recently, and I'm due for a rewatch on this one. So I am definitely going to be revisiting my Scream Factory 4K here this month. So Carrie's a good one. I've also talked a lot about Scanners in the past. David Cronenberg. Love this film. This is probably my favorite Cronenberg film. Yeah, the mind control elements of this are just incredible, and you got to love the practical effects in a film like this as well, right? Also, another Brian De Palma film I've talked about on the channel before, The Fury, another great telekinesis horror film starring Kirk Douglas, Andrew Stevens, and Amy Irving, I believe. Yeah, this one's really good, and it's got one hell of an ending too. So I definitely recommend it. If you've never seen this one, get your hands on it and check it out because it's a good one. Also along the line of Scanners, the Scanner Cop movies, which I have Scanner Cop 1 and 2 here in this Vinegar Syndrome box set. It was a 4K box set, kind of like the unofficial sequels to Scanners. I don't even know if they call it unofficial, right? I think these are intended to be direct sequels to the original Cronenberg Scanners movies. So, and I love them. I think they're a blast. I have a lot of fun with these movies. Another great mind control movie I love is Firestarter. You can't go wrong with this one. And I actually read the book, the Stephen King book for this one when I was younger, and I loved the book. And so when, in fact, I think I read it not long before this movie was released. And so I went into this movie, you know, pretty excited about the movie, having read the book. And of course, the movie's not as good as the book, but it was still cool. And in this case, we're talking about pyrokinesis, you know, her ability to control fire with her mind. And she's real good at that. You know, she can basically set anyone and anyone's world on fire just by thinking about it. And I always thought that was just super cool. So yeah, Firestarter is another really good one on the mind control front. What else? Oh, or even something like, psychic powers like the Dead Zone. Love this one. I still haven't gotten around to picking it up on 4K yet, but that is definitely in the plan. I've heard the 4K for this looks really good. And so I'm just kind of weighing my options on this one. Like, do I pick up a 4K Steelbook now, or do I pick up just a standard edition 4K while it's on sale this month? Or do I wait and see if we get like a really cool chunky box 4K release from either like Arrow Video or Second Sight Films? So I haven't exactly decided what I'm going to do with this one yet, but I can tell you this, I absolutely love the Dead Zone. So yeah, anything with mind control, psychic powers, telekinesis, I love that kind of stuff. So that is my number 4. All right, we're getting into the top 3 here, and these are the big ones for me. These are my absolute favorite horror subgenres. For my number 3, I'm talking about anything that has to do with ghosts, haunted houses, or paranormal activity, right? Ghosts especially. I love ghost stories. Absolutely love them. One of my favorite horror subgenres. I'm talking about movies like The Changeling, which you can't go wrong with this. George C. Scott in this one. And yes, I do kind of wish I had picked up the Second Sight version of this on 4K instead of this Severin Films version. But the Severin Films version here, it's fine. It looks fine. So you can't go wrong with this movie. It's a great little like ghost story, haunted house kind of deal there. So yeah, one I definitely recommend if you've never seen it. I'm also talking about movies like Stir of Echoes, Kevin Bacon, and check out this cool lenticular slip I got on this Lionsgate 4K. How cool is that? How cool is that? I love that kind of action. Yeah, when I saw the lenticular slipcover, I just had to have this, in 4K. Now, actually, I was due to kind of add this to my collection anyway because I'd been meaning to pick it up on Blu-ray, but then it came out on 4K. So that wasn't necessary. I just went straight to the 4K. So yeah, great stuff. Love Stir of Echoes. Very cool movie. Of course, The Shining. I think kind of a haunted house kind of deal. I mean, there's a little bit more going on there. I think this is kind of this is one of those films where I think you could actually make the case it kind of fits into multiple subgenres. But either way, yeah, gotta love this Stanley Kubrick classic, The Shining. Of course, I'm a big fan of the Conjuring movies. I like them all, at least the 3 that I've seen. And I actually just picked this up on 4K, but it's in the other room because I was watching it last night. So just grabbed my Blu-ray for the purposes of this video. What else? Ghost stories, hauntings. I'm a big fan of John Carpenter's The Fog. You can't go wrong with this one for sure. I love the atmosphere of this film, and it's a great looking 4K from Scream Factory 2. One I've talked about a ton on the channel before, Amityville Horror, another classic film, absolute classic. I'm not even sure there's much I can say about this other than just to remind people that this is a stunning looking 4K from Vinegar Syndrome. They really knocked it out of the park with this one. And then the last one I wanted to mention along the lines of hauntings and ghost stories and paranormal stuff is a great little movie called Ghost Watch, which I believe came out in 1992. I think that was the year this happened. And this is a very unique situation with this movie. This was something, it was a fictional movie that was made for the BBC, but it was passed off like it was almost this kind of like mock news broadcast, right? About where like this news team is like investigating some paranormal activity at a house in London, right? Hauntings, this house is supposed to be like a haunted house. And so they're going to go check it out and see if it really is haunted, right? So, and remember, this whole thing is totally fictional. But when the BBC ran this in 1992, they treated it like it was this live special, and and people thought it was real. They thought the things that happened in this movie, they thought this was really going on, and it caused a ton of controversy. People were freaking out, thinking this was a real thing. And, it's like a fictional mock news broadcast. That's what it is. But they didn't know it was a mock broadcast. They thought it was the real deal back at the time. So the story behind this movie is just super fascinating. And of course, I've got this nice little chunky box here that I picked up a couple years ago. that has a copy of the script of the film. It's got some great bonus features. It's got a making of documentary. You just can't go wrong with this one. And I think it occupies kind of a unique place in horror history. It's one of those things that I felt like was kind of a must own for the collection just because of the story behind this and how people freaked out and the controversy surrounding it. In fact, this may have even been banned in the UK for a long time. I mean, don't quote me on that, but I feel like I read that somewhere, and it's been a while since I've watched it. So, but I feel like it probably got banned in the UK because it was so controversial at the time. So, but if you've never seen Ghost Watch, this is one I would highly recommend checking out just for the experience. It's so much fun. So yeah, I mean, that's I guess that about covers it for my number 3, ghost stories, haunted houses, and paranormal activity. All right, and for my number 2, another all-time favorite subgenre for me that I absolutely love, I'm talking about sci-fi horror, which is, some of my favorite movies of all time are sci-fi horror movies, including Alien, which I've talked about endlessly on the channel before. So I'm not going to say much here other than if you haven't picked this up on 4K yet, you should get this in your collection because it's a stunning 4K. Of course, I've got my Alien chunky boxes up here, courtesy of my buddy Mark Deal. But also other great movies like, what else have I talked about on the channel before? Event Horizon. Great sci-fi horror film. And like I said, another one that's come up quite a bit on the channel before, so I won't say too much about it. But if you've never seen it, you should definitely check it out. It's an awesome sci-fi horror. I mean, next to Alien and the Alien franchise, I think Event Horizon is probably one of my favorite sci-fi horror movies. I just have a lot of nostalgia for this film, and I always love returning to it. What else we got here? Oh, there's a movie like Life. With Jake Gyllenhaal, Rebecca Ferguson. Who else is in this? Ryan Reynolds. That's right. He's in this. He has a role in this as well. This is a really intense movie and very suspenseful. Love this one. As far as sci-fi horror goes, you definitely can't go wrong with Life. Or a movie like Pitch Black. Another, I guess this one's probably considered a bit of a classic now, or at least a cult classic, I think is probably more appropriate. But this is one I always enjoy returning to. And of course, starring Vin Diesel in this one. And then another all-time classic, The Thing. I mean, I've mentioned this so many times on the channel, probably almost as much as Alien, maybe not quite as much as Alien or Aliens, but I do mention this one a lot. It's at a killer 4K. So yeah, if you don't have this one in your collection, you should definitely get it. But one of the greatest sci-fi horror movies ever made, in my humble opinion, setting aside Alien, of course, because Alien is always going to be my number 1 jam. But if you set aside the Alien movies, yeah, I think this is one of the great sci-fi horror movies ever made. And then, of course, you've also got movies like Annihilation as well, which this one I like. It's not as good to me as other sci-fi horror movies, but it's a great example of the subgenre here. So, yeah, I'm just a big fan of sci-fi horror movies in general. So, sci-fi horror for my number 2. Okay, and then for my absolute favorite horror subgenre, my number 1, the creature flick. I absolutely love creature flicks. And those can be all kinds of different movies, right? The creature flicks can also be sci-fi horror, right? Like Alien. And it was tough when I was trying to decide whether to put sci-fi horror as my number 1 or creature flicks as my number 1. It was tough because of this movie. It's like, well, should I put sci-fi horror as number 1 because Alien is my all-time favorite movie? No, I'll make it creature flicks as my number 1 because I still get to include Alien in that designation. But of course, creature flicks can be all kinds of creatures. It doesn't have to be alien creatures. It can be sharks, right? Like Jaws. You can't go wrong with Jaws, right? Or Alligator, as I've often said, one of my favorite creature movies. I should say, I've often said I like Alligator more than Jaws, but they're all good, right? I love creatures in general. Alligator movies, shark movies, and I have other shark movies as well. The Meg, or what else I got back here? Deep Blue Sea, for example. Great creature flicks that involve sharks. What else do we got got here? Of course, Tremors, another classic or cult classic as far as I'm concerned. Great creature. He's got a little sci-fi element to this as well, but awesome creatures that really pop in 4K, by the way. This is an Arrow video release for those of you wondering. Of course, I've talked about Pumpkinhead before, another great creature flick starring Lance Hendrickson. What else we got here? You got a movie like Mimic here, Guillermo del Toro, great little flick there. Also, how about Night of the Creeps, which I actually have coming to, which I have coming on 4K. I'm just waiting for it to arrive, but great little creature flick there, starring the Dick Slinger himself, Tom Atkins. You can't go wrong with the mighty Tom Atkins ever, as far as I'm concerned. What about a movie like Ticks? Got the Vinegar Syndrome 4K here of Ticks. So many different creature flicks out there. So many viable creature flicks out there. What about Critters? Got Critters there. I got the Critters box set there with all 4 Critters films. I've only seen the first 2. I've still never watched the other 2, but I do like the Critters films, or at least the first 2 that I've seen. They're a lot of fun. And then, of course, we have Godzilla movies, many of which I've not actually seen, like in terms of like the older classic Godzilla movies. But I do like the newer ones that we've seen, this one and like Godzilla -1. And I like the MonsterVerse movies. They're a lot of fun. Now, I don't know if these are really would be considered horror. I guess you could consider them a form of horror, like horror action or something like that. I have a lot of fun with them, but they are definitely creature flicks. There's no doubt about that. And then one last one worth mentioning is The Fly, David Cronenberg, which I don't actually own that in my collection yet. I keep hoping that we're actually going to get that one on 4K at some point. So I've been kind of holding out and waiting for an eventual 4K release. But I don't know. I might have to break down and pick it up on Blu-ray because I'm not sure that I want to wait much longer to revisit that one. So, but yeah, I think The Fly absolutely qualifies here. David Cronenberg, a great director there. And Jeff Goldblum in that one doing just a killer job. So yeah, I'm a big fan of many different types of creature flicks. It is my favorite horror subgenre at this point. So yeah, for my number 1, creature flicks. Okay, so that about wraps it up for my top 10 favorite horror subgenres. Let me know what you think in the comments down below, and let me know what some of your favorite horror subgenres are. I always love hearing from you guys and chatting with you guys in the comments, so make sure you leave me some feedback down below. Also, don't forget to like the video and subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Thank you so much for watching today, guys. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you soon.